Hey everybody, I'm Rob Childs, a Rapier swordsman out of the United States, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to do this.
Thrust.
No agreement, no exchange. Not help on my part.
So most recently I have returned from SoCal Sword Fight. It's a HEMA event that takes place every February in Southern California. If you've never been to it, I highly suggest you go. It's got lots of tournaments for you to participate in. But that aside, this last time I was there, I generated a lot of interest in a technique that I use to disarm my opponents that I call a momentum disarm. Now the reason I call it a momentum disarm is because it utilizes my opponent's momentum that they've imparted on their own weapon. At its most basic, the technique takes advantage of the force generated by my opponent's thrust through a violent and unexpected redirection of the attacking weapon. And today, I'm going to show you how I do it. As in all things with fencing, you need to have an acute understanding and execution of measure. Attempting to use this technique without it is just going to set you up for the double hit, and that's just no good. Second, you need to have knowledge and execution of the no-tell lunge. If you don't know what that is, look it up on the YouTube channel that you're currently on right now, video number 3 titled No-Tell Lunge. You have to have this as a foundational skill set in order to perform this technique. Third, it's very important that you know when to do this technique. While it's critically important you understand the mechanics behind the actual technique itself, it's no less important that you understand the timing. Having one without the other is really essentially the same thing as having neither one of them at all. That said, in the interest of keeping these videos short, on this publicly available video, I'm going to focus solely upon the mechanics of how to do the technique. For you Patreon supporters, however, I'm going to be releasing another video that goes a bit more in-depth as to the when that you're going to do it, as well as where this technique came from. Within those lessons, there is an additional lesson that I think will help your fencing overall. So now that we've got that out of the way, cue the slide for how it's done. When you have a no-tell lunge as I do, the first action belongs to me alone. When you give no-tells on the attack, your opponent is going to spend approximately 250 milliseconds just processing the fact that an attack is even occurring, which is more than enough time for me to complete that lunge. Now as for the target, it doesn't really matter what I choose so long as that target is above the waist. You'll understand why that's important when you see how this technique is performed in a moment. When my attack completes, we move into the next segment of time whereby both of us are going to get an action. Now my opponent, seeing the opportunity for a riposte, is going to commit to a fast thrust. I, however, am going to commit to a parry 4, and then from that position I'm going to push it forward. It's all going to be done in one smooth motion of moving from the attack position into a parry 4 position and shoving it forward. When this technique is performed at speed, it generates a tremendous amount of force that can rip the sword right out of your opponent's hand. And it looks kind of like this.
Hold!
Fight.
Keep in mind that even if you don't disarm your opponent with this technique, you have still essentially parried your opponent's incoming attack. And that's the great thing about this particular technique. Even without that disarm, you have still covered yourself such that you have parried the incoming attack from your opponent, and now you have set them up for a follow-on action. I have done this many times, and I have no doubt it is going to happen many more. So as mentioned earlier, if you want a closer look at this technique and other techniques, then consider subscribing to my Patreon channel, Castle and Sword. You'll find a link in the description of this video. As a subscriber, you get special accesses to these instructional videos, update videos on the castle, and other benefits listed. So I hope to see you there.